Good evening. Good evening. How are you doing out there in podcast land? Welcome to Living Light, Dark to Dawn, Rock Solid, the place where you come to expand your thinking and elevate your way of being. How are you all doing out there? My name is Dawn Shale, certified life coach and soul healer, hostess of this podcast. Episode 3 for this forum. I migrated over from Podbean after being there for 2.5 years, and I'm going to be saying that for a little while until people here and the listeners and the followers and all that get used to it. And so do subscribe to this channel, please. You will not regret it. As I said, this is a place where you come to expand your thinking and elevate your way of being. I'm here to motivate, inspire, teach, share, help heal, guide, all of these things that will hopefully make your experience all the more better for being here. So welcome. This is part 2 of my series, 2-part series on freedom from control. This is Tuesday night was part 1. I did the very best that I could it was quite a lengthy introduction, and I laid the foundation to this. And so this is part 2, and I'm going to do my very best again to get into the nitty gritty and the nuances of how control works, why it works. It goes way beyond just your basic, fear, clearing fear out of your life. Fear is way beyond, and this is I talked some about some of this on Tuesday, but it goes, of course, way beyond being afraid to drive over a bridge or fear of heights and things like that. And they're more phobia oriented. The fear that I'm talking about is of a relational interactive sort of fear, and how it plays out, how fear plays out in relating in relationships and marriages, whatever relationship it is, friendship, families, and different things. And it's usually related to insecurity. Insecurity is it's a huge culprit to fear. So I'm going to give this a couple of minutes to see who logs on. I'm expecting a few people. It is 6:32 p.m. I am live. Hey, Dave, how you doing? Live studio person number 1. How are you? I really miss the sound effects. I used to really love the sound effects in Podbean, but I don't have that now. I don't have hand clapping or cheering or laughing or anything like that. Hey, Carrie, how are you? Carrie and Dave are here. Welcome. So I just sort of said this is part 2 to freedom from control, part 2. And I'm really going to dig and delve into this. Anger has a lot to do with this too. Little fruit fly or something. Anger is a big one. Hidden anger, the anger that you don't talk about, the anger that you have felt in your life and that you suppress and you push down instead of dealing with it. So the talking points should be listed somewhere. If on your end you could see that. The talking points that I'm going to cover, I'm going to just switch to another screen because it's different. So I'm switching to another screen just to read the talking points. The talking points are as follows: clearing fear beyond what's thought and taught, where, when, and why, fear of independence, insecurity, the main culprit, breeding needy energy. Needy energy is a huge one. The fight, resistance, and aggression, being secure and loved in who you are, and so much more. Being secure and loved in who you are, like really, really grounded in who you are, is the key to all of this. And I don't want to jump ahead. I'll repeat it again, but it really has everything to do with knowing who you are, knowing that you're loved, feeling that you're secure in who you are, has everything to do with not being controlling and being free to relate and accept and, embrace and not be threatened or resist what other people are saying, their opinions, their way of being, and all these different things. I got it. I am remiss. I just want to give a shout out to a couple of people. Shout out to Margie Pargie. How you doing, my girl? And Ms. Bet, as she said today, she said, it's not creepy, but she always says that. She always says, it's not creepy, but I take you into the shower with me. I'm just honored that she listens and that she wants to listen that much, that she'll squeeze the time. She'll bring her phone into the boudoir with her or whatever to listen. David Badansky, Breaking the Chains of Dieting, sequel to this, Stop Dieting, Start Thinning. Awesome, amazing. Human being, husband, man, father, the whole ball of wax. A dear friend of mine. He's the one that I spent time in Texas with, in Dallas, as a guest on his show, Jaded Health. And so that will be launching in January. If you're looking to be leaner, lighter, just more fit, he said in his own words, I was tired of being fat. And I was tired of being fat. And I realized that diets don't work. And you didn't fail the diet. Diets fail you because diets don't work. And if you're looking for total health and wellness, not just how you look, but just how you feel and all these things, he's your man. Check him out. Stop dieting, start thinning. Jaded Health on Tap is his book that's coming out soon. My scholarship program, this was established early last year, I believe. And what it basically is, it's funding people that don't always have the resources to work with me. And it's silly that because of, finances and money that people can't get the help that they need. And so it's just a matter of finding me in Venmo or Zelle and going there and donating, and no donation is too small. So do avail yourselves to that as you feel led. Subscribe to the channel. Did I by any chance? I think I mentioned that. So let's see. So here we are. So I'm all caught up with announcements. Definitely still an adjustment, so do bear with me, but we're going to get into the meat and juice of this right now. So clearing and fear, it's works together with healing. Okay. Why do people need this? Why do you think? Well, we've all been subjected to fear in our life. We've all been born into a codependent system, a conditioned society. We've all been born into this. None of us are exempt from the effects of this conditioned system and this codependent system. And so the effects of it is fear of, being afraid to be who we really are, express who we truly are, share our real opinions, share our voice, the fullest expression of who we are, whether you're super, super quiet, or maybe you're more voluminous, maybe you're a little on a more loud, boisterous side. I know I tend to be I can be very, very quiet and, laid back, but I also have, an excitable side, and I can get loud sometimes, and I'm not afraid of that. I'm not, afraid to express that or intimidated by it. There are just different effects that the system has had on us in life. And, it plays out and shows up in relationships and in how we relate to one another. And also your upbringing, the kind of family that you had, how you watched your mother and father interact when you were a kid. If they argued and fought a lot, you may not have adopted that exact behavior, but you did, that energy did seep into your being. It definitely had an effect on you and an influence one way or another. And so I know the family that I was raised, that's what my parents did. That was it. And even when they were talking, there was like a slight tension and arguing going on, and it just was not pleasant. It wasn't pleasant whatsoever. I had a lot of healing to do. I had a lot of process to do. I had a lot of detoxing to do. And it took me 30 years to do this. And I use that round number of 30. I mean, it's been, give or take. But so depending on, maybe how you were raised, maybe you were raised in a warm and loving family, and maybe there were just things that affected you after you left the house, or maybe you got divorced and you never recovered from it. Maybe you had a bad experience in high school and college, you never recovered from it. And there are just certain things that if we don't process on the regular, if we do not allow ourselves to feel and process our feelings, and we're not honest about those things, they fester, and then they take root. And then what happens is, given the right situation with the right person in a given situation, it manifests, it's triggered, it shows up. And it doesn't always show up in the greatest of ways. And so, I'm probably going to spend some time really talking about insecurity. And so the thing is, insecurity is a massive culprit, and it breeds, works in conjunction with needy energy. The more, and not everybody's insecure completely as a total person. Their insecurities maybe in areas, maybe you're strong in one area. You might be, you are a really good communicator. Maybe you do a great job in your career. Maybe you have an amazing relationship with your boyfriend, with your girlfriend, in your marriage. And then maybe there's some family members that you struggle with. It depends what suits you, what fits you. And so, this insecurities show up in different areas of life. And, for me, back in the day, I was incredibly insecure. I had jealousy issues. I had competition issues. I mean, this goes back to, high school, after that 20s type thing. In your 20s, who really knows who they are in their early 20s? I mean, there are a lot of people, it's not it's not a rule, and anything I say here is never a rule, and there's never any shame or judgment in what I'm saying either. It's just from my personal experience, how I've worked with clients in the latter years, my observation as an intuitive, as an empath. And so, can you all hear me? Hey, Kathy, how are you? I hope so. I guess you guys would have said you couldn't hear me if you couldn't hear me. So I guess the sound is pretty good. So everybody's been affected by fear one way or another. Everybody's dealt with insecurity in one way or another. It's a very hard thing to admit. There's a lot of pride surrounding this. And so that's the trap, is that there's insecurity, then you have pride, you don't want to admit it. And so people seek out, then they'll go to therapy or counselors or a coach or someone like me. And even then, like I've had a client that did not want to come right out and say, I'm insecure. I'm of this age and I still have insecurity and I need healing in this area. And I knew that this person needed this and they weren't admitting it. And you have compassion, you have empathy on this. And here's the thing, when you deny yourself healing, when you deny yourself clearing this, thanks, Carrie, for saying so. When you deny yourself this process, this personal development, this healing, this awakening, however we want to say it. And I know that there's a large spiritual community out there. I mean, we are spirits and souls and hearts having a human experience. That's what we are. We're souls and spirits having a human experience. And so whether you are on a conscious path to awakening, to higher vibration and consciousness and frequency, you are on a journey, depending on whether you realize that or not. And so this is definitely not a religious show. I say this a lot. This is definitely not a religious show. It's not really a spiritual show, but it's living light, dark to dawn, rock solid, as how to get more in alignment with your own light, your own love, the love that you are, because that's what you are. You are love at your core. That's what you are. And so that is my job, is guiding people back to guiding, not telling people what to do, telling people how to think, but guiding you into your own realization, guiding you into your own revelations, and this is how I work with people in sessions. So that being said, I talk a lot about emotional health, relational health, because it's what's ailing humanity. And there are a lot of people that can be happy, and they love their solitude and they love to be alone. And it's easy to be happy when you're alone because you're not interacting with other people. You're not experiencing the reality of other people, the different consciousness of other people. So it's easy to do alone. It's easy to be, or just have a partner and it's just the two of you and nobody else and stuff like that. And it's easy to be happy. But how do you function, especially if you're someone that wants to be a leader, wants to be a healer, wants to be in the public sector? You want to impact and affect humanity on a larger scale, in a public forum. It really takes being secure and sound in who you are, and knowing who you are, and being in alignment and connected to your love in such a strong way that you're not affected by all these different nuances and things and feelings and phases of consciousness that people are in, because that's really the reality of it. And there's highly sensitive people, there are empaths, there's starseeds, there's seers, there's prophetics, there's mystics. And these types of people are more highly emotionally wired than others. They see deeper into things than other people. They understand and understand things deeper than the average, than other people. And I use the word other loosely. Again, there's never any shame or judgment with what I'm saying. But not every single person on this planet is an empath. Not every single person on this planet is a highly sensitive person. We're all different. We all have different callings and purposes and souls and timelines and all these things. And so in this moment, especially in chaos and in turmoil in the world, is a massive call for unity, a big, massive call for unity. It's a big wake-up call. It's triggering people in many different ways. It's triggering their anger, their unresolved anger, their unresolved fear, their phobias, all these different things. And it's all coming and rising to the surface. And if you're experiencing any of this, or you know someone that's experiencing any of this, this is the good news. It's a good thing. And even though it feels or looks lousy, this is a good thing, because it's an invitation. It's a divine invitation that's saying, here's the divine, here's God, here's the universe saying, I'm inviting you to look at this so you can heal it, so you can clear it, so you can move it out of your space, move it out of your energy field, once and for all, and be this whole happy, joy-filled person that you've wanted to be, that you desire to be. And I believe in bliss. I believe in magic. I am magic. The people here in this studio are magic. We are all magic at our core. I believe that. I've been talking about magic for years. I've been talking about that we are love at our core for years. I've been talking about this for a very long time. And there are people that, will be either cynical, or they don't agree with this, or they'll say, and that's just where they are in their space, in their consciousness. It doesn't mean it's your reality. I read something on a friend's page the other day. I've been just Facebook friends with this gal for I don't know, 6 years. I don't know how long. And it said, not my reality is the perfect way to respond to people that are trying to force their reality or their opinions or their way of being, onto you. It's a perfect way to deal with conformity. Not my reality. My reality is I love joy. It took me my whole life to get joy. It took my whole life to get this peace, to tap into this and tune into this and have this peace on a daily basis and have this joy on a daily basis. It took my whole life to get there. And, recent years, that's where I've been. This didn't just happen like last year. So, you know what I'm saying? And so, I understand what it's like to be unhappy. I know what it's like to be hurting. I know what it's like to be up one minute, down the next. I know what it's like to be moody. I know what it's like to, well, maybe it's just my personality. I'm just a moody person. It's like, no, if there's moodiness in a regular basis, there's an anger, there's unresolved emotional debris going on that's making you like you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. I see it more like this, kind of like that, kind of maybe like the heartbeat. Maybe it's like the heartbeat now, instead of the extremes, and when you're extreme and you're moody, you're going to have emotional roller coaster relationships with people. You're going to have those arguments, those discussions that they're the heated things, and they're never resolved, and it's shoved under the rug. Just was I was talking about on Tuesday. It's never resolved. It keeps you keep revisiting it. You keep rehashing it. It never gets resolved. But so I want to talk about, I have here, let me look at these talking points again. I mean, I'm just going with the flow right now. I want to talk about defensiveness and the insecurity thing and the needy energy. I think those are the three things that I really want to cover, and how it plays out in relationships, and plays out with each other. If you feel like, when you feel like you're annoyed with someone, I think I may have said this on Tuesday, but if you're annoyed with someone, or someone bothers you to the extent of you don't even know this person really, you don't know their story, you don't know their life, you don't know where they've been, you might not even understand where they're going, what they're trying to accomplish. This has everything to do with how you relate, is understanding a person in totality, at least understanding some of their story, where they've been, what brought them to where they are, the process and their life experience that brought them to where they are, what their vision and goal is for the future, and what they're doing currently to try to manifest that. And those things have so much to do with how you're getting along with other people, and how much aligned you are with your own love and peace. So this insecurity stuff, I remember just being in my early 20s. I had no direction. I had no clue what I wanted to do. I was going to church at the time. I moved out. I ran away from my mother. I took off. My father left 2 weeks before I graduated high school, so he wasn't around. He was long gone. And I had to get away from my mother. I know this sounds horrible, but at least you can see my face now, because before on Podbean, you were just listening to me. Now you can see my face. It wasn't easy. I mean, she was very narcissistic. She was wounded. My mother was wounded herself. She never did her work. She never healed. She was a life suck. She was draining. She was an emotional mess. She was always in strife and angry and disgruntled and disappointed and this about everything all the time. Constant. It was just constant. And my poor dad, but see, I can say my poor dad, but he put up with it. He allowed this. He allowed this in his life. And I think when I was 7 years old, we were in the backyard. He was doing the yard work that my mother would scream at him to do. I think he was whatever he was doing. And I loved being out in the yard with my dad, because we were out of the house and she could be in there brewing and stewing and whatever she was doing. And we were in the yard, and there was freedom out in the yard. And when I was a kid, that yard was like a wonderland. It was amazing. There was a cherry tree, a pear tree, a peach tree. I think we had a raspberry bush. We had a weeping willow, which was amazing. There were 3 pine trees. My grandfather, who I am now living on their soil here, which, by the way, I'm coming to from Hunterdon County, New Jersey. I forgot to say. And glorious weather, by the way. It's glorious. It's going to be like around 80 all through Saturday. So before I distract myself, as I'm prone to do. So my grandfather was actually raised in this county. His father pioneered this county. They had a 100-acre farm here in this county. He moved to Denellen, New Jersey. He built the house. The mortgage was paid off by the time my mom was 15 years old or so, I was told. And why am I telling you this story? I know I'm telling you this story for a reason. I don't know. Somebody, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. I'm telling you this story for a reason. I mean, my grandmother, my mother's mother was a sweet, amazing woman. My grandfather, not so much. He was a very stoic, sort of blank look on his face, wasn't very warm, wasn't very friendly. And that's what I remember, when I was 5 years old. So we were living in this house. So that's why I was telling you this. So my grandfather, he not only built the house, but he landscaped the whole yard back. And this is like the late, the 50s. And what you could do back then, he did a pretty good job. He created a pond with those goldfish. So there was a pond there and all these things. And he did some pretty creative things for that day and age. So anyway, it was just a beautiful yard at the time when I was a kid. And so my dad said to me, he's like, I'm thinking of leaving. He called me Donnie. He said, Donnie, I want to leave. Will you come with me? I didn't know what he meant. I'm 7. You're leaving. You're going where? Yeah, let's go for a ride. Where are we going? And he was so serious. And so he wanted away from her so bad, but he didn't want to leave me. And the whole situation, I'm not making an excuse for anybody. The whole situation was so sad, but I'm 7. I really didn't know how to process this. What 7-year-old knows how to process this? But this is what I experienced. This is what I was raised in. And my heart always, even as a child, I had empathy for my dad because I saw how she was this super masculine energy woman, which I had to deal with. I have a lot of masculine energy. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I think I have a lot of feminine energy as well. And I think having a balance of both is amazing. If you can. I know one person in particular is scared to death of her masculine energy. She's scared to death of it. And she thinks that she's healed because of this. And as a result, she doesn't take action. And when you don't take action in life and you don't make decisions, it's hurtful to people because life is people. Life is people. You can't, unless you're going to be a recluse and just sit at home and be by yourself and people do this. You can do that. You can be a hermit and hibernate for the rest of your life and not have any connections or relationships with anybody and feel like you got the glory down. When you have the glory down, when you can be around other people and be glorious and be completely sound and secure in who you are and give that out to other people, heal other people with it. That's when you're glorious, when you can do that. So anyway, that's a little bit of a story from my childhood of which, this stuff gets into your system. And so I had to, grow up and process all of this. And so my father took off 2 weeks before I graduated high school and I ran out of the house when I was 19 years old. I left my mother. I knew her. She was very routine oriented. So every weekend she would every Saturday, she'd leave really early in the morning. She wouldn't come back till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And so I had planned my escape. Imagine that I couldn't just say, I found a place to live, I'm moving out. This is the story that I had in my mind. This is how traumatized I was, that I felt like I could not be honest with her that I was moving, that I had a story of, I have to escape. So think about that. And so, but that's what I did. And I know I told this story on my podcast, but this is a new forum and a new place. And so I want people to hear some of my story. I want people to understand where I've come from in this forum. And so, packed up, we bought a car for $150, smelled like vomit. And it was a 1965 Dodge Polara, I think. $150, barely passed registration, but it passed and it was a blessing. And I kept my door locked and I packed up all my stuff. Like, it took me a couple weeks to do this. I was only 19 years old. And so I planned that one Saturday that I was going to move out, and I ran in and out of the house and packed that car up. I made a couple of trips and I was gone by the time she got home that night. And that's how I moved out. So it wasn't just that I didn't tell her and like, oh, love you, mom, huggy, kissy, I'm moving out on my own now. Not only was it not that, but I believed that I had to, because I was that scared. I was that scared and that traumatized from this interaction and dynamic with her that I had to escape. And so I moved in with my half sister and the games began. And I think it was, I don't know exactly. I know I was living in that one house and that one townhouse, and she worked two jobs. She was an AT&T executive, and she worked at Macy's at one of the Clinique counter part-time at night. So she came home like at 9, 10 o'clock, 3 or 4 nights a week. Jimmy Swaggart was on the television. Jimmy Swaggart. And I just remember seeing people's tears and things, and not knowing I was an empath, not knowing I was a highly sensitive person. I knew I was as a person, but I didn't know there was a name for it. I didn't know there was a description. I just knew, like, I'm sensitive all the time. I hold back tears a lot. What is all of this? Anyway, so one thing led to the other, and I ended up, getting saved, becoming born again, and I went to church, and so that's how all this started. I told some of this on Tuesday night. So I had a lot of healing to do, especially in the area of fear. I had massive trust issues. Oh my gosh. I mean, I had a couple of good best friends at the time. When I went to church, that kind of all came crashing down because you had to give everybody up and just be in the church and only hang out with Christians. And you couldn't be any connected to people that were ungodly or that didn't go to church and things like this. So that was 1986. And so I had a lot of work to do. And I really didn't realize how deep the work that needed to be done, because it didn't happen when I went to church. Like, that was a comfort, and made a lot of friends there, and we all hung out together, and we all were just dysfunctional together, I guess. But we went to church and we tried to please God and all this stuff. And it was we would pray together. There were some moments, there were some things that were definitely beneficial for all of us. We were very loving people. Definitely our goal, at least, was love. It was love. It was definitely that. And so I didn't really hit the wall of knowing how much healing I really needed to do until I got married. And I had relationships and boyfriends and whatever and stuff like this. And I was engaged once to a guy that I sang in the choir with at this one place. And, that was kind of weird. And so, and whenever I dated guys, by the way, back then, I didn't go from guy to guy to guy to guy to guy. There would be a breakup. I would take a year or two. Like, I would just be single for a year. And it served me well. It did. I mean, I feel that it did, because I reflected in between. I just took time for myself and to rebuild and regroup, realign, however we want to say this. So I met my ex-husband and we got married, and that was all church oriented stuff. And it was in that relationship that, how old was I? 30. I was 30. So I didn't really realize the healing. I had done some, I thought. There were a lot of tears and things during church services and prayer meetings and all this stuff, but I didn't really start doing the serious work until I turned 30 years old. So I'm 57 now. So this was 30. And that's kind of aged, sort of, especially when I moved out at 19. And I just, I thought that I had a belief. I had a thought. I wasn't conscious of it, but I had a thought that once I get married, somehow I will have achieved the Mac Daddy blessing, amazing thing, and I'll never have to do anything ever again. So I'll never have to really, I will have obtained the golden crown that once I get married. And it couldn't have been the furthest thing from the truth. And there are a lot of girls out there that they just want to be married. They want to be married. They want their man. They want their knight in shining armor. And they have no idea what a divine union is really all about. They have no idea what this really means. And I'm not talking about twin flames. I'm not a fan of twin flames. I'm not a fan of the concept surrounding twin flames. If there's a such thing that exists that's real surrounding this, I don't really go there. I kind of don't go there. I've studied it. I've looked at it. I don't like the description of it. So I kind of just let other people believe what they want about it. Hi, David. How are you? Hey. So you really come to yourself in marriage, in these kinds of relationships that are serious. You really come to yourself, and that's what it's partially is what it's for. It brings you to a mirror experience. So we were wound mates. We were enable buds. We were codependent pals, but the insecurity, I used to think to myself, I'm 30, I'm 31, I'm 32. I still feel this horrible insecurity. It's awful. And the church that we were going to, we were like sort of in a leadership role. We weren't official, like the leaders, but we were in leadership roles. And there are certain people that I would get around that would just trigger me a lot and would trigger this insecurity. And it was just a horrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling where you feel like you look one way in the outward appearance. You look one way, you look happy, you put your face on, you do all this. But feeling like this nervousness and this sort of like inadequacy and this, you don't measure up and you compare yourself to other people's lives. And, oh, I wish I had what they had. And wow, they look like they're so happy. And all of this, and people thought that our marriage, they thought we were like, had the perfect marriage. Oh, Dawn and David. Not really. And, it was messy and it was hard. And that's when I started really doing the inner child work. And I went through Theophostic, and I went through, if you ever heard of that, I went through, psycho, what is it called? It's been, okay, not psychology. So Theophostic, there was some Christian counseling in the mix. What is that therapy called? I don't, this is silly that I can't think of this phrase. It's whatever. All the counseling things that I could get my hands on, I did. And so, the inner child stuff, I highly recommend. I do this. I work with people in this. And I knew back then going through this that I'm supposed to help people. And that's why David and I were in the ministry. We were in counseling. We were altar counselors and all these things. And it is amazing how grace and love will still flow through you no matter what. And when you are in a moment where someone needs help, that you can help them, but yet you feel like this fragile, broken person. And, I don't believe that people are broken. I just feel that they're unaligned. I think they're misaligned. They just don't know who they really are. They don't feel this love at a deep core cellular level. So the insecurity, so it used to eat me alive. And, we'd leave church almost every week. And sure enough, David and I'd be having this conversation in the car on the way home. Why does she do this? And why does she do that? And it was usually, someone that I could tell was avoiding me. They wouldn't look at me. They wouldn't say hello. And then my mind would create a story over this person not looking at me right or not saying hello. And I was usually around a couple of very insecure people themselves. And so all this energy was just bouncing off of each other. I had a couple of good friends there. But it was driven by my own insecurity and fear, but also my desire for, why can't people just be free? Why can't we be free? Why can't we flow in an authentic space where there isn't a mask, there isn't lies, there isn't a facade, there isn't an image being put forth? Why can't we just be real about what's going on? And that didn't happen until the whole Toronto outpouring thing. And I know this might sound weird to some people that don't know what this is. Went to Toronto twice to the Toronto Airport Christian Fellowship, the TACF, and it was the Toronto Blessing, it was called. And this is where so during that time is when a lot of these people really started getting some healing, because there was this energy outpouring, anointing of love that was just really bringing people's stuff out. And then people started talking, they started opening up, they started talking, sharing their testimonies on the microphone in front of everybody, saying, I really wrestled and struggled with with insecurity. I really wrestled and struggled with, I was afraid of this and I was afraid of that. And some people would, say I was suicidal. I was suicidal. All of this is as a result of not knowing the love that you really are, not knowing how secure and sound and grounded, the grounded love that you have inside, that the debris in the material has obstructed you from and hindered you from. And that's what all this is. So the insecurity, I had to own it. I had to admit it. I had to deal with it. And when you don't, and you try to push it aside, or you think you have it mentally, you don't. And, unfortunately, how this plays out now, I mean, in older years, the older that you get, and there is a natural maturity that takes place. There's a natural maturity that takes, I was eating nuts before, excuse me. There's a natural maturity that takes place where people know how to act. You learn, people acquire how to act nice and how to act right, but it's not always sincere. It's not a sincere flow of this flow of your purpose-filled existence. And I made a post today about this because I made the post that I announced this part 2 of this freedom from control topic. So how does this relate to control? Why does this, let me move into that. How does this turn people into control freaks and just wanting to take control of everything? Because first of all, insecurity makes you feel very out of control. When you feel insecure, you feel like you just feel out of control because you are out of control. You're not aligned. And when you're not in alignment and there's insecurity at the helm within, you feel very much out of control and you have no control over everything. And so what happens to try to resolve this insecurity is people act out in these controlling ways. And jealousy is one of them. Competition is another. Jealousy and competition, by the way, is a space of where you feel like you are not enough, and there isn't enough room and space for you, and you feel like you're not enough. And I know I wrote this down somewhere, and I have to look at this. Jealousy and competition comes from fear of not being or having enough. So you're afraid that you don't have enough, and you're afraid that you aren't enough, which you are. I'm going to see the comments here. Everybody's saying hello to everybody. Good. Yay. One big happy family. So you are absolutely enough. If you have breath and you're breathing and you have a pulse, you are absolutely enough. And even if it's hard to admit, no matter how young or old you are, that you still have insecurities, I highly recommend that you do this. I highly recommend that you really go into this and you deal with it, because it's coming out in ways. It comes out in anger. It comes out in being defensive. It comes out. And so the jealousy and the competition is, and I remember jealousy is so horrible because you feel like you want what someone else has. You wish you had what they have. You want to be in their place. You feel like you lack what they have. You feel like, they're better than you and all these things. And it's because you're not connected and aligned with your own juice, your own pearls, your own magic, your own source of self, of providence and God and universe within you to be and express and do who you are from that real place. And so this is how it shows up. And the competition where you feel like you have to compete with someone else or sort of try to get in someone else's place, or you see someone doing what they're doing and, well, I can do that too. And I'm just as good as that. And there's a story, there's these thoughts, and there's these ideas of things that it's driven by the insecurity that creates this jealousy and the jealous thoughts and the competitive thoughts. And the older that you get, anger starts to take its place. Anger and resentment now is taking this place. And it's just really a big jumbled up ball of mess, of egoic, fear-laden stuff. And I committed to myself. And I'm shaking my head. I'm not shaking my head in shame. I'm shaking my head of remembering how difficult that was and how awful it felt. And it's what happens is that the older that you get, that I mentioned that the pride comes in, and so you feel like, well, I'm this and that, and I've done this, I've gone here, whether you're a man or a woman, and you've experienced this and that, and so you feel like you shouldn't be in this place, and so you're going to try to mentally master this by denying the fact that you are feeling this insecurity, that you are going through this, that you are having these feelings. And so the pride comes in and it turns snarky, it turns sarcastic, it turns passive aggressive. It's validating kind of it starts to validate this. Love isn't a cherry picking idea. Love is who you are. And when you're aligned with who you are in this space, in this secure, loving space, does that mean you're perfect? Because I could hear like, well, nobody's perfect. And how can you ever really get there? I'm talking from experience. I'm sharing from experience of what it felt like to be that and what it is now to be more secure as the space that I'm in now. And so love is not a cherry picking thing where, and people will do this. They'll talk about love. They'll post about love. The warm and fuzzy stuff with love and the warmer and the softer, but then make concessions for the time of when, well, you can tell someone off, or you can you can be angry or tell somebody like it is or act like this. What is that really doing? What is that really doing? It's cherry picking love, number one. And I understand that because I used to follow someone a few years ago, it wasn't that long ago, who I still love her. She's great. And I'm not going to say who she is. She's got 1 million followers and a page and she's great, but she does get angry. She gets angry. Her posts are on the angry side, and she a lot of language. I don't have a problem with language. I drop an F-bomb here and there. I don't have a problem with language. And I'm no Pollyanna, believe me. I'm not. I'm from Jersey. And in Jersey, we know the deal. Jersey people especially know that, and why is it? Because it's the Northeast. It's the tell it like it is. Get out of my way. There's tension in this space on a regular basis. We're New York City's parking lot. That's just how it is. It's the Italian, the whole thing. And I'm telling you, some Jersey girls can drop the F-bombs and tell you to go fuck off in a heartbeat. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I used to do that. What is this doing now? You got to think about the end result of what this is doing, because if in the beginning of when I was talking about different phases of consciousness, different phases of understanding, different places of this, what is it doing? What is it producing? It's just exacerbating that energy into the collective is what it's doing. And I had to really consider that. I had to consider this. So this person that I'm telling you about, who I still love, this person who is a little on the edgy angry side with the constant language. Sometimes the posts are just so in your face and so angry, and people love it. They love it. There'll be, 4,332 likes on this post when they're just venting. And yeah, okay, good. But guess what that's doing? It's just pumping more anger and angst and negative energy into the collective. We are either in this for love or we're not. We're either in it for love or we're not. And there's a tactful, classy way to handle situations. And if it's a toxic situation, and it's a dynamic or a connection with a person that just isn't working, and it's not gelling, and it's not connecting, bless and release. This goes back 10 years. Bless and release. Bless and release. Wish them well, because what we're putting out is either is just a demonstration of who we are. It's a demonstration of who we are. It's deflection. It's projection. It's the shadow. And I know that there's a lot of validation, and it goes back and forth. So 1 minute we're saying, well, we want the warm and fuzzy, and then, but the warm and fuzzy love, but the next minute we're validating this over here, only when in these certain cases, because there's this thing out there that I've never agreed with. that it talks about when you feel, I don't even know how it's stated. When you feel hurt, being hurt by someone is just a reflection of the pain and wounding that you have within you, and you're just being triggered to heal. I don't agree with this. Okay. If you have a pulse, and a heart, and you're an empath and you're a caring, you're a deep loving person, and someone does something that hurts you, you're allowed to feel hurt. And it's not because you're a wounded, broken person. It's because they did something crappy that wasn't nice, and it hurts because you're a caring person and you care about people. That's why it hurts. Not because you're wounded, not because you're broken, not because you need help, not because it's a reflection of all your garbage, because you're a caring, loving person. And also it's disappointing to caring, empathetic people when fallouts and breakdowns happen. It's sad. It's sad to me. I transmute faster than I ever have, quicker than I ever have. And I'm always going to feel, and I put that out there. I'm always going to feel, I'm always going to care about people. I'm always going to want unity. Real empaths and starseeds, I'm pointing, sorry, are all about unity. First and foremost, you're going to know a highly sensitive person and a real empath and starseed by how much unity they are after and how much they're trying to create it with their whole entire being. They want that unity. They want that loving connection with everybody. Not that, world peace. I'm not talking about Miss America. I'm talking about an inner desire, it's almost a hunger. That's not the word. Just an inner aching for unity with people. And you can't always have that. I'm going to just tell you a story real quick. I just wrote somebody a letter and I mailed it. Because this particular experience was so unacceptable and so unkind and so just over the top ridiculous. And I just felt like, I'm going to do this. I am absolutely going to do this. I'm going to write this letter. I'm going to put it in the mail. And it was tactful. You have every right to speak your truth. You have every right to talk about this. To sit here and go, well, I'm hurting and I feel bad. It must be me. So I just need more healing because this person acted like A, B, and C. And so therefore, I just have to suppress my feelings and think this is no different than the bull dunk religious teaching that people are running away from in droves, thousands a week, of talking about a loving God, and then over here that you're allowed to feel what you feel. Period. You're allowed to feel what you feel, and only you, between you and your maker, and you and God, and you and the universe, do you know why. If you ask yourself, why are you feeling this? If you have a right to feel this, if you have a right for your feelings to be hurt, and I'm not talking about being offended 24/7. I'm not talking about that. And there are people that just love to be offended. There are people that live to be offended. There are people that look for drama and create drama and all that stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. So, signed, sealed, delivered, baby. Signed, sealed, delivered. And that's the lesson for this person. Whether they get, I have no idea. I did my part, I did my piece, and that's it. There's never any time. I don't care. There's never any appropriate time for dishonor, disrespect, just abuse. And abuse is a strong word. This person wasn't abusive. There's never a good time for that. What is it? Repaying evil for evil. Repaying evil for evil is, the vengeance, revenge doesn't solve anything, but you do have a right to share your feelings and talk about what you need to share. So so the insecurity, I was talking about insecurity. Let's move into the defensiveness and the reactionary. The needy energy. Here's what needy energy does. The pockets of fear, I talked about pockets of fear on Tuesday night. And so where there are pockets of insecurity, you might not be a total insecure person as a whole. Back then I was a total insecure person as a whole. At least I felt so. I felt like I was being swallowed up. It's just, if you've ever experienced this, or anybody that's listening that feels this, it's awful. It's an awful feeling. And so, you just want to crawl under a, anyway. So needy energy. So what this does, when you don't heal this insecurity, when you don't clear this, and you don't clear the fear, and you don't clear these things, it causes you to take control of situations in an egoic way, through through arguing, through fighting, through being defensive, through reaction. Reaction is maybe a subconscious thing. I mean, it's all subconscious to a certain level, that once you become conscious of and aware of what you're doing and knowing what you're actually doing, you'd probably look and stop and say, you would stop and say, why am I doing this? Why am I acting this way? This isn't who I want to be. This isn't what I want to do. And there are people that brag about, like this person that I'm referring to, that I still think is cool. That's angry and makes these real edgy, angry posts. Just telling the world to F off all the time, and F off, F off, F off. Okay. You're putting F off. Okay. Got it. It's energy. It's all about the energy that you're putting out there, that you're dispensing out. And so if you keep receiving this, and then you're going to keep telling someone to F off, you're going to get more energy that's going to cause you to keep, and it's just a vicious cycle that's just going to keep going round and round and round like this. What would happen if you're so secure and you understand to a degree, connected to your own love, that okay, what is this going to serve me reacting like this? What is this going to produce? What is this going to demonstrate with this person? And maybe they're going to talk, or maybe what it's going to show with other people. What is this going to produce? Is this going to serve me? Because isn't there a thing out there that says, we're one, we're not the same, but we're one. And so as I behave on behalf of you, and you of me, or something like this. This is the cherry picking that I'm talking about. We cherry pick love when we want to love, when we want to be warm, and when we don't, then we validate, we make excuses for this inappropriate, dishonoring, disrespectful behavior. And you can do whatever you want. Anything you can sow, any seed you want to sow, there's going to be a harvest. Just so you know, there will be a harvest. So in these pockets of fear, in these pockets of these insecure moments, the needy energy, what it is the insecurity is you feel a void, whatever area it might be. And so it creates this needy energy where you're trying to get a need met by needing something from other people to the extreme. You're needing something to an extreme, because there's healthy need, and then there's toxic need. There's healthy relationships, and then there's the codependent pals, the enable buds, the trauma bonds. and they're usually, friendships or relationships that are bound together by more hurts and wounds, and need for getting something from someone else, getting that need from someone else more than you're fulfilling it within yourself and in your alignment. So the behavior, I already talked about the jealousy and the competition. And so there's energetic combat. There's a thing such as this is jealousy on steroids. This is competition on steroids, where you actually try to, or not you, but I'm speaking in terms where you actually try to energetically draw people away from other people. And you will compete in such an insidious, jealous fashion. It's not even jealous now, and it's not even competition. I don't even know what you want to call it. It's witchcraft. This can be a form of witchcraft, where you're going out of your way to, and I've seen this, to appeal to certain people on purpose, to play up to people, to act. That's what I was starting to say before, is acting nice. And people learn how to act nice. They learn how to act out love. They learn how to agendize love. Because when you're really functioning from a place of love, there's a freedom. There's a liberty and a freedom in the space, where there isn't this wonky, icky energy of the resentment, the competition, the jealousy, the this kind of static in the background, this sort of the needy energy. I was also starting to talk about the well, I can do this too, and I can do this, and I can do that. And so the stories and this stuff is usually just, it's created in the mind. It's created in the mind through the fear, through the ego, based on the insecurity that is causing you to reach out in a needy energy, in this need, because you want to fill, because insecurity and this and the like and this fear is draining. It's not fulfilling. It leaves you feeling a lack, like you're not enough. And so instead of healing this, people will reach out in these ways from the need. They want to feel fulfilled, so the needy energy takes that fulfilling place, and that needy energy takes over, grasping and reaching outward for all of these other things, people, places, things, substances, whatever, to try to fill this gnawing, insecure stuff. If this makes sense, I hope this is making sense. It's deep stuff. And so there's a natural maturity that takes place, but the older that you get and the more that you don't allow yourself to really feel and deal with this insecurity, or you think you've dealt with most of it. No, everybody feels insecure on some level. Nobody actually feels secure in totality. I completely disagree. I disagree. I know what I've experienced in my own life. I know the colleagues and the friends that I have that they don't have an insecure bone in their body. They might have their other struggles or other challenges in life, but they're secure in who they are, and they're secure in their friendships. There's going to be like a freedom. There's going to be that love that flows and that warmth that flows, and there isn't like a suspicion going on in the mind, or having to go see what they're doing, or troll social media and look what other people are saying, and then create a story of what other people are saying, and then do this as a result of it. And I'm sure I have no doubt, if anybody's watching this because you want to see what I'm saying and see what I'm doing, other than wanting to really hear what I'm saying, I welcome you to really deal with that suspicion, to deal with this insecurity, to deal with that energy that is motivating you to function like this. Because I'm it's not attractive. And the empaths and the HSPs and the starseeds and all these people that are in social media, we can feel it. We can feel this stuff going on in the space. We can see it. We can feel it. Sometimes it's really obvious. You can feel it. You can see it. And so the energetic combat and the energetic, where it gets into witchcraft, is like, I'm just going to play up to certain people. I'm going to make, there's certain moves that are made. I can't really think of a specific one right now, but there's certain moves that are made that are playing upon the emotions and the beings of other unsuspecting souls, unsuspecting people that aren't aware of this kind of behavior. So it's usually maybe just people that are not aware of it, people that aren't aware of this. And so, well, I'm going to go after her, and I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to play up to this, I'm going to play up to that, because I want this and I want that, and I want to be this and I want to be that. And reaction, I want to talk, well, the defensiveness. Let's talk about the defensiveness and the reaction. You're having a conversation, you're having an interaction with someone, and something is said, and you would instantly react, and you instantly want to defend yourself. There's a fear there. It's all fear-based. Defensiveness and reaction and resistance is all fear-based. It's fear-based because you feel like you have something you need to protect. You need to protect your character. You need to protect, something needs to be protected, because there was a void. It's not filled up with love. And so you need to protect something. Usually it's your pride or your ego that is wanting this protection, because you'll be open to have a conversation. You'll be open to hearing what other people have to say. You won't be triggered by what other people are saying. You won't be triggered by other people's way of being. You won't be triggered by what everybody else is doing, because you're sound and grounded here. And I was so moved all the time back then when we first got married. It used to drive David crazy with these conversations. And he'd say, "Hun, you got to stop thinking about this and get out of your head," and all of that. And some of it was legitimate. Some of it was because of the ability to, the intuition has always been there, the ability to see things. But I'll tell you what, when intuitives and empaths and starseeds, these types of people that are highly intuitive, when they're not healed, you're going to interpret other people's stuff and internalize it and take it personal. and then react out of that, and then compete out of that, and then be jealous out of that, and then feel insecure out of this, and feel like it's 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 a bottomless pit. Insecurity and fear is a bottomless pit. So when, where, and why does this happen? I mean, independence. Let me talk about being independent. Independent people, really truly independent people that know who they are, tend to trigger people that wrestle with this insecurity still, and they don't do it on purpose. I had an experience with an ex a few years ago. His mom, unfortunately, she said to me once, "You're a very independent woman," and I said, "You say that like it's a bad thing." And I've had people over the course of even recent years make this statement in so many ways about me being independent. And we're supposed to be independent. We're not supposed to be codependent. Interdependence, as in needing each other in a healthy way, needing each other in friendships, marriage, colleagues, what's the other word? Coworkers. We need each other in a healthy way. Whereas we're not needy. But independence is where we're heading, as a humanity, is where we're heading into our divine humanity, into our, our God-given, our love-aligned space, the higher dimension, the multi-dimension, whatever phrase we want to use. That's where we're heading, into this deeper love, this deeper heart-centered living. And it's independence, and it's knowing who you are in, as I'm saying, I'm repeating, in this grounded space where you're not needing everybody else's approval. There's no approval necessary. Other people's opinions don't rock your world so much. You're not so easily triggered by what other people are saying or doing, or how they're, the podcasts are doing, the Facebook lives that they're doing, that whatever the meetings are doing in different venues, whatever it is that they're doing and speaking and sharing their voice. You're not moved by that, because you know your voice. You know your voice, and you know what your contribution is, and you know what your place is in this world, and you know the voice, the message that you're here to bring. And maybe you don't have a message. Maybe it's just who you are. You're just your way of being, just you being a loving human being of whoever you are. Just who you are in and of itself is enough. Is totally and completely enough. So the independence. I had this conversation with someone recently, and it was, this person doesn't know me totally, completely, and we're getting to know each other more, and it's not a relationship or anything like this. So, and I don't mean this seems so cryptic. I'm trying to hold confidence in this. So there was a conversation, and I said, I can't stand control. And they said, "Oh, I know, I know that you make that very evident." And I said, "Well, that's not a bad thing. It's really not a bad thing. I've been doing this for 30 years. They don't know my story that I just shared about how I left home and all these things and all this healing work that I had to do and all the inner child and all these different modalities that I consulted with to get the healing that I needed and to come into alignment with who I am and really love who I am and really appreciate who I am. And you should be celebrating who you are. And if you can't celebrate who you are and you can't feel comfortable, if you're feeling so still uncomfortable, wondering why someone's doing this or someone's doing that, or I encourage you to really clear that. Really clear that. It's not leaving a legacy behind. And there comes an age and a time where we're supposed to be leaving a legacy. And if we take a look at humanity right now, we take a look in human form at humanity and the condition that a lot of it is in. We're the adults. We are now the adults. I still, we're the ones that are supposed to be the better examples, the good influence, and I understand the whole that, well, there's a soul, everybody has a soul contract. And I subscribe to that for so long. Healing is a choice. Being a healthy, whole person is also a choice. It's a choice to do your work. It's a choice to be healthy. It's a choice to be whole. It's a choice to pass this down to your children, to people that I don't have kids, but it's a choice for me to pass down something better than how I started in my 20s and, up to 30 years old. It's my choice. And I chose to do this. I'm choosing to do this now. I'm choosing to look at the real hard stuff, the shadow stuff. It's a choice. It's not always, well, they're not doing it because, well, it all depends on what their soul wants. And okay, it's a choice. It is a choice. And so the independent thing. So independence, we are not supposed to be independent to where we don't need anybody at all. We're not supposed to be codependent, but we're not supposed to be, such an island unto ourselves to where we don't need anybody ever. But we are supposed to be independent in a way that we're not so easily moved and triggered by what other people are doing and saying and being, because there's a whole heck of a lot of contrast out there. There's a whole heck of a lot of diversity out there. There's a whole heck of a lot of different people out there. And we are needing to come into a place of unity. And the only way that we are going to come into a place of unity and really get along from a genuine place, a sincere space, is from that alignment, from your grounded, the grounded love within you in that alignment. And perfection comes up again. I really feel like it's not about perfection. I've been talking about this forever. I had someone say to me, a couple of people said to me around 10 years ago, what year was 10 years ago? However long ago. Well, nobody's perfect. No, nobody is perfect, but accountability and responsibility is also a choice. And at some point, you have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn how to have a conversation. You have to learn how to take yourself out of yourself and tap into another person's world and perspective and experience, and understand where they're coming from and why they said what they said, and what, like I said earlier, the background, the family, and all these things that have contributed to their experience. And I really think most people are not ill-intended. I don't think people are ill-intended. I think there's ignorance involved, that they just don't know. They're just not aware. But I don't think people are ill-intended. So when you're reacting, some of that reaction and that resistance is because somewhere within you, that insecurity is attached to experiences that created this insecurity of where you didn't feel seen, you didn't feel heard, you didn't feel validated. So now that part of it is being triggered by people that are acting this way. And so you think that they're acting a certain way. And so you think they're doing it on purpose. Well, they're doing it on purpose. This is on purpose. So I have to act accordingly, because they should know better. Well, some people don't know better. Some people are not aware. They don't know better. I think everybody is doing their best. I think everybody is somehow, they're doing their best with what they have at the time. And then what is it, Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. And so when that information comes into your space, into your field, your faculties, you do better. You take that in as, okay, this is an invitation for me to really look at this and to do better. I'm always going to be on the board of personal development. And there's been a massive shift, a couple this year for me. And, there are things last year and even the year before that are completely different. And other people wouldn't know that because they don't know me now. And I mean, I'm not the same person I was last week. You can be a different person than you were 15 minutes ago if you make a choice and a decision to stop doing A, B, and C, depending on what it is, and just not be that. And it's going to shock some people. It's going to surprise some people. Some people are going to be like, well, who are you? This is not what I know of you. I don't know this about Kathy, Dave, David, Carrie. I don't know. I don't remember these people this way. Well, okay, this is who I am now. This is it. I'm on an evolutionary path. I'm on a path of my soul's evolution, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to become the best version of myself that I possibly can. And some people will want to hold you in that old space. They have a memory of you, or they have one experience of you. So now that they've created your whole entire character around this one experience that they had, this one altercation that took place, this one misunderstanding that happened. So now they have defined your whole entire character as a human being based on this one altercation that was never resolved because they didn't want to have a conversation. They didn't want to talk about it. Or the two of you never had a conversation. It was never resolved. So now we've got a whole entire character created. It's ridiculous. It's not, that isn't love. That, love is action. Love takes action. Love is more than the warm and fuzzy and the sweet, syrupy, sappy stuff. It's in the niceties, in the acting nice and the being polite. It's taking action. It's saying, hey, let's have this conversation. Let's talk about this. Let's iron this out. Let's really try to understand each other. And there's some people that you will like and that like you, but there's just this kind of thing. And I think that thing and that tension is the insecurity and the fear there. There's an insecurity and a fear that's going on. There's a thing that's happening, a dynamic that's happening. The conversation I had with this person, I was honest with this person, the one that I just mentioned about the independence, where the independent thing came up and that I don't like control. And nobody should like control. Control sucks. Control is fear. Control isn't love. And so really great, productive conversation. And nobody got angry. Nobody got annoyed. It was this person is evolved and in a space of raising consciousness enough to know that let's have this conversation and let's be honest with each other about what's going on. And it was awesome. It actually was quite awesome. And it's not always comfortable. It's not comfortable. Nobody likes rejection. I don't care who you are. Nobody likes rejection. Nobody wants to be felt. You don't want to be misunderstood. You want to be understood for who you really are. I'm not talking about it in a needy way. But living in a space of constantly, that every situation that comes up, every conversation that comes up, or just your way of being, whether it's, face to face in person or in social media, where you feel like you have to be kind of functioning from the defensive. Here's what I said. I want to do this. I'm going to have a look at this. So Kathy said, I change frequently upon new information. Yes. Amen, girlfriend. That's how it's supposed to be. That's my queen. Let me see what I said here. So I said today, walking in authentic power isn't about what's being rejected or abandoned from defensive energy, but where you're going and creating in productive, expanding, and uplifting energy. So what does that mean? There are people that say, well, I'm not doing this anymore, and I'm not going here anymore, and I'm not, well, maybe not going here, but I'm not engaging with this, and I'm not, I'm not. That energy I'm talking about? It's a sort of it's a punishment. It's pride. It's ego. There's a little defensiveness going on there. When you're healed and you've dealt with this fear and you've faced the control head on, where you're controlling and how the insecurity, the defensiveness, the needy energy, and how these things control, because that's what I've been saying here, is that the needy energy, these things I just said, they create controlling dynamics. So when you're healed and you identify this, it's not about what you're not wanting to do and not with this sort of an edgy energy stuff. It's what you're moving towards now in a productive, expanding, and uplifting energy that you are motivated by producing positive effects. You're motivated by creating love. You're motivated by unifying. You're motivated by uplifting people. You're motivated. That's what moves you forward, because the other is really keeping you stuck in that same energy. And so while you're saying, well, I'm not going to do this anymore, and I'm not going to do that, and it's kind of maybe blame oriented, that it's, I'm tired of all these asshole guys. I'm tired of all these asshole girls. And I'm tired of all these, these people over here and these people over there. So I'm not going to do this anymore. And I'm not going to go there anymore. And I'm not going to do this anymore. You are feeding the source of fear in that energy. That's what it is. That's not freedom energy. It's blame. It's looking at what they're doing. They. It's all they, them, their energy. It's not you. When you're flowing from a you focused, you aligned, loved energy, you're moving forward in a flow of peace and joy and love. Not this hyper defensive stuff, because that's what it is. It's a defensive energy, edgy energy. People live there all day long. And I'll talk to certain women who, you know, it's especially in the dating pool or whatever it's called. And, you know, so where are all the good men? Where, you know, there's tons of good men. I believe there are tons of good men out there. I do. We're not attracting them because we need to be an amazing, evolved woman. Okay. So I think there's plenty of divinely aligned, awakened, conscious, love conscious men out there, as well as divinely awakened, conscious, aligned women out there. And we have to stop speaking in a way of they, them, their, as in THEY apostrophe R, you know, that they are, and start calling in to our space that matches what we are, that matches the love that we are, that matches the love and the frequency and the vibration that you are living in and that you are. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Because it's not that when functioning in that defensive energy and in that space is creating more of what you don't want. And that's what resistance does. Resistance, when you resist something and you're being defensive, it's just building a wall of what you really want. And so when you tear that wall and that resistance and the defensiveness down, you say, okay, I'm broken open. I'm broken open. I'm open to love. I'm open to alignment. I'm open to living from my heart center, my true love grounded space, and giving that out to other people and really connecting to other people from this space. That's when those people come flooding in. That's when those people come flooding in. So I think I'm going to stop right there. I see the comments, and that's awesome. I get excited. So Carrie and Dave, yes, thank you. And all you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. It's an hour and 16 minutes in. I think I'm going to stop right there and just say thank you for being. I hope this has made sense. That, my dear, that, my friends, was part 2 to freedom from control. I mean, let me just say this before I close. Freedom. I think I've made this point throughout. How do we get freedom from control? Whether you're on the receiving end or you've been a controlling person, connecting to yourself, being willing to move out any material, any debris that has hindered or obstructed you from being connected to your own self and your peace, joy, and love that is that bubbling over magical stuff that I was talking about. Being willing to be honest about it and talking to someone. And, you know, I'm here for you. This is what I do. This is how I work with people. And so if you're one of these people, if you need this, reach out to me. This is what I'm here for. You know, you are love at your core. You're absolutely love at your core, your innermost being. That's who you are. It's not just what you're, you know, we are born from love, as love, to love. That's who you are. You're amazing and beautiful just as you are. And so that being said, my name is Dawn Shale. You can find me at www.dawnshale.com. You can learn more there about how I coach and counsel clients. This podcast is here. It will be posted in Facebook. I don't know about Instagram. And I'm going to have to see how I do this going forward with the social medias. But if you or someone you know would appreciate hearing this, and this applies to anybody, you know, send them the link to this podcast. Let them know who I am. If you or someone you know could use some counseling, some coaching, some healing, look me up. My information is on my website, because there's only so much that I can do here via a podcast. I can do way more one-on-one, and I'd love to get to know you better through a 30-minute intuitive call, which is complimentary. So look me up, reach out to me, and thank you guys too. You're welcome, David. And that's it for this week's Living Light Dark to Dawn Rock Solid. I will be back on Tuesday. I have no idea what I'm talking about. You're going to have to tune in to find out. And so have an amazing rest of your week. Friday, tomorrow, an amazing weekend ahead. Live, love, be blessed. Know that you're magic. And I love you all, and I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.